Hello, welcome everybody. Welcome to Talking Investing. You got Tom, you got George. We're late. It was my fault, but a
Of course it
lot
was
went
my
on
fault.
today. It's
Of course
always
it was
my.
my fault. Then it was your fault. We're still celebrating the Buffalo Bills.
That's right, exactly. I haven't gotten a lot of sleep the last few days after that Bills game. So we had a huge day today for the Bitcoin miners. One of the biggest days of the year. Bitcoin was a little bit sideways. A big jobs number came out today. Also, a huge 17, I think it was a $17 billion deal got signed. And that was really the catalyst for all of this. This had very little to do with Bitcoin mining, even though these are all Bitcoin miners. So it's AI that continues to pump all these stocks. And I'm going to show you a press release CleanSpark put out. And I feel like smashing every one of them over the head because it's like, just put AI. Just say it. Just say it out loud. We all already know it. And, you know, you could have been up 20% like everything else today instead of 5%. So let's see if they've learned their lesson. The big laggers on the day were CleanSpark up 5.5% and Marathon up 4.8%. I mean, those are phenomenal days. Bitcoin was down, a percent today, just under 1% today. And yet we had a monster Bitfarms up 24%. Yes. All of my options are now in the money on Bitfarms from hopelessly out of the money. And obviously my shares are finally green. That was the last one we were waiting for. So, it was a good day for me. Hopefully it was a good day for most of you. How about you, George?
I mean, I don't even really look at it anymore because it went down so much, but I'm almost back to my number of the high of this year. About in July was it or June? Because it was June. So I'm like 20 grand off of that number. So that was my magic number. And so that number represents a 200% increase, by the way. So that means I'm up like 165, 170% for the year.
Yeah, that's huge. That's I'm hoping everybody's portfolio looks like mine and George because we had to wait and suffer a long time, but I'm at new all-time highs, and it was a brutal run. And Calvin said, still expect Tom to talk about Bitfarms for a minimum of 20 minutes. I won't talk about them for 20 minutes, but I will just tell you, I mean, we'll get it right out of the way so you guys don't have to hear about it anymore.
No, you were right. I mean, as much as it pains me to say that, you know what I mean?
Bitfarms is now up 127% since late June. So 2.5 months, 127%. So I am glad I did not sell. This is when I was actually doing my analysis.
Tom, I sold, and I just sit on the $600 that I sold. So that shows you how bad that is. You see what I mean?
Right. That'd be 1,400 right now.
Yeah.
So, and I don't think it's done. You'll see it just crossed another line, and it crossed it like it wasn't even there. So I think it's going to still keep running. And again, I'm not claiming, listen, I get it. I saw all the same stuff you guys saw. Bitfarms is not the company that it used to be, but it was not a 68 cents company. That was cuckoo town. It was not a $1 company. That was ludicrous. They're starting to get somewhere, right? I got this line at 276. I think that's very much in play by the end of the year, but certainly they're a $2 stock. I mean, please. For them to hit $2 is a failure, and they still need to go up. That's another 35% move to the upside before they get to what I would consider an F. So that's all I'll say about Bitfarms for now. I reserve the right to talk more about it later. We have everyone's operational report except BitDeer. However, BitDeer does do weekly operational, very brief updates on X. So I used the 4 weeks in the month of August, and then that left 4 days left over, 2 at the beginning of the month, 2 at the end of the month, and I used the average and kind of guessed at their number. So we'll get to that and look at what everybody did in August and understand that, you know, it's going to be plus or minus 5 Bitcoin in the case of BitDeer, because I had to guess. Because for some reason, even though they can put out a weekly report every week, they somehow can't seem to put out their monthly report by September 9th. But they had a very good month. The bottom of the list had all the ones at the bottom of the list had big months. So they're all trying to catch up and stay relevant. So it was an interesting run. And I added over here, you'll see on the side, I got ABTC, American Bitcoin. That was up 11.6%. Mystifying to me. That is now by far the biggest market cap stock out of all the Bitcoin miners, which makes no sense. It should be, in my estimation, it should be the smallest Bitcoin miner by market cap, and yet it's the biggest. So that's a pretty massive discrepancy. I do have Kang on here, and I'm gonna keep it on this list on the side. I think I put it on the bottom of my report. You can see this behaved poorly today. This was down almost 12% when everything else, the entire rest of the Bitcoin mining / AI universe skyrocketed. This went way down. And if you go through their financial statements, there is a reason. This company is different. I'm not sure we should include them as a Bitcoin miner, and I'll go through my line of reasoning as to why later, but there's a reason they're down 12% when everybody else is up 12%. And it's not the news of the day. It's just who they are. MicroStrategy was in the red. MetaPlanet was in the red. So these treasury companies are still taking it on the chin. I'll show you how that one trade I made is doing. It's staggering. It's staggering for the trades. I feel good because there's some trades that I did that, you know, you remember the ones you did wrong. I remember all the ones I did wrong, kick myself every day. So I'm keeping track of the one I did right because it was a big win.
How did MicroStrategy do?
MicroStrategy was red. They were down 0.42%. So they were down on the day. MetaPlanet was down 2.8% on the day. One of these treasury companies is now doing a stock buyback. Let's see if I can find that. I mean, that doesn't even make sense. I might accidentally close that one. But it's SharpLink, which is holding Ethereum. Instead of treasuring more Ethereum, they're buying their own stock back. That's how bad their stock has tanked. This has not been a good formula for the last 4 or 5 months. And I have an article saying it never will be ever again. So, you know, I would take that article one of two ways. Maybe they're right, or maybe that's like kind of calling the bottom. Because you know how that goes. A lot of times once everybody's made up their mind that one thing's going to happen, the exact opposite thing happens. See if I can find that. Sailor model struggles as crypto treasury hype turns to doubt. And I got a couple other MicroStrategy articles we're going to go through right after this. But let's talk MicroStrategy. Should we get a poll up, George?
Yeah, let's do it. When we do it, I'll do it. What's up?
Are we gonna hold on to the? You got something?
No. I just read. No. Well, we might as well do Bitcoin. That's always interesting.
Yeah, we can start on Bitcoin. I think we should do a poll. Are we going to hold on to these gains today? Because we had a huge up day. Are we going to give this all right back, or are we going to keep running from here? So Sailor model struggles as crypto treasury hype turns to doubt. Bloomberg, and this is from Bloomberg. It wasn't hard to see coming. The stocks had soared too fast. The promises had gotten too big, and the math had gotten too weird. These new companies, public firms built to buy crypto and often doing little else, were supposed to offer investors a lucrative way into the digital asset boom. Instead, as the stock prices fall and the market confidence slips, the question isn't whether the model is under pressure. Increasingly, it's how and how quietly it could fall apart. So this was, if you guys remember, when I made this trade, I said to myself, remember what happened to Grayscale? They went from like a 50% premium to the Bitcoin they owned to a 50% discount on the Bitcoin they owned over the course of several years. It's not like that just happened overnight. That took years. But it trended in the wrong direction. For once it started moving in the wrong direction, it caught momentum and it trended in the wrong direction for 2 solid years. And so I don't know if that's what's happening to these companies, but it's not unprecedented. That's what Bloomberg is saying here. And again, to be contrarian, when people start saying the sky is falling, maybe that's the right time to buy. So you always got to do your due diligence and you got to decide what you believe. Even as risky assets from stocks to corporate bonds push higher ahead of an expected Federal Reserve interest rate cut, shares of digital asset treasury companies are mired in a worsening slide, and their tokens are slumping too. Among the 15 DATs tracked by financial advisory Architect Partners, the average share decline last week was 15%. So, now, again, if you go back, we have some people that were in early on MicroStrategy. They're still up 500% probably. But the last 4 months have been rough. And the question is, what's the next 4 months? What's the next year? What's the future? So that is the question that I would ask. And Alexander's saying treasury weakness is showing in miner holders. So here's the difference for the Bitcoin miners, and I assume you're talking about those that are hodling. For the Bitcoin miners that are hodling, they actually have an underlying business, which is mining Bitcoin, and most of those companies are being valued at or less than the value of their Bitcoin, which means the rest of their entire functioning business is being valued at zero, versus these other companies that are being traded multiples of their value of Bitcoin. So they already started out way behind. So I think that means there's a lot of room to catch up. And particularly as obviously all, rising tide, etc.
The rising tide, I don't know, floods the house.
Something that's right. Here in Southwest Florida, we don't like to talk about rising tides anymore. So, but everything Bitcoin related, if Bitcoin does what we're thinking and hoping and talking about, and it runs to 150, it runs to 175, everything Bitcoin related is going to reap the benefits of that. So that's the only argument that I would say that counterbalances this conversation. But this wasn't the only news for MicroStrategy, and we did talk about this late on the stream on Friday. Michael Saylor's strategy snubbed by the S&P 500 amid Robinhood's surprise inclusion. So Robinhood was up big today. Robinhood gets included in the S&P 500. It's still kind of good news for crypto because Robinhood has turned into a significant crypto play. You know, they're not a pure crypto play, but they're heavily involved. And I think this was just a safer, more cautious move for the S&P 500. MicroStrategy has checked every box. They qualify in every way, shape, and form, but they're still very volatile. And I think they were just scared to put them in there. So they went with a safer choice, which is Robinhood. But I got to tell you, in this Robinhood, it's not like Robinhood's not volatile. That's an extremely volatile stock as well. So it is what it is.
I think that was a good move, don't you?
By the S&P 500?
Yeah.
Robinhood is, yeah, I mean, yes. They have a business model. They're profitable. They're growing. They're more of a regular company. I think there's going to always be a stigma attached, even though there actually is an underlying business at Strategy. It's insignificant. It's immaterial. It's not worth, you know, for it was worth $1 billion for a year. It's the $100 billion this company is worth is the Bitcoin that they hold. So they really don't have any regular Let's put it this way. They made $10 billion last quarter on $100 million of income. So that goes to show how insignificant their regular operations are. Versus Robinhood, which is now a thriving business.
They make time.
I would have to look and see, but they must have made money or they wouldn't have qualified.
Right. Yeah, but they could have crushed it. I mean, do they get to are they making a coin or no?
I don't think Robinhood has their own coin, but they trade cryptocurrency and, you know,
just the float of Bitcoin, they're probably making them freaking a ton of money.
That's what I'm thinking. You know what I mean? It's like a Coinbase type of a situation. They don't.
Someone brought up a very interesting point. He goes, how come, you know, we sell $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin and the price goes down $3,000, but then Strategy buys, you know, $5 billion worth and the price doesn't move?
It's I know if you're trying to make sense of any one day, it can be very difficult. I will say this. If we go look at, update this. If you look at the ETFs, this tends to be a better estimator of what Bitcoin is doing. And, you know, we're kind of out of the range. We had a rough patch with the ETF outflows for Bitcoin. Now, if I update this one, you're going to see Ethereum, while they had a rough patch back here, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 days in a row. They're in the red. Yesterday, they were $500 million in the red. So Ethereum is consolidating. It's pulling back. It's not pulling back drastically, but I think this is always one of the good things to look at is what are the ETFs doing? Because this is big bucks. It tells you what, you know, institutional money's doing to a certain extent. But even this isn't a perfect correlation. And Bitcoin, I mean, if we look, this dotted line is where we were on Friday. So from Friday until right this second, we're down 0.4%. So we're basically flat over the last 5 days for Bitcoin. Yes, yesterday we were actually up a little bit, up to 112. Today we're at 111, which the Friday's price basically splits that in the middle. But again, even on this downward, and it was like the market opened, the jobs report came out, which we should go to next, and it tanked everything. I mean, you can see Bitcoin just go down, 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 sideways, down, down, down. It cratered almost 2%. And I want to go through those numbers to reiterate just how absolutely ridiculous these numbers are, and it's one of the ones that I pound on. That's just, and the market reacts to it. Remember, we got the monthly jobs report and the market went bananas reacting to it. Well, now we got the annual jobs report, and I'm going to go to that right now, because what we saw there is
It's MicroStrategy's ticker,
MSTR.
because I was in shock how low Hood's numbers are. Their profit for last year,
Oh, really?
1.6 billion.
Oh, hey, listen, what's a billion between friends?
I know, really. I mean, and I got to think that they crushed it. Let's see. They're gonna be added. There's just no doubt in my mind.
MicroStrategy.
Yeah.
Yeah, they just, it's like it's kind of like for the sports fans out there, they weren't. This was their first opportunity. This would have made them a first ballot Hall of Famer.
No, and the other, what you would call it, Hood made money the year before too. So yeah, they're about the same, really. But I have a feeling you're going to see a big difference the next time, the end of this year.
Well, MicroStrategy could make a ton more money depending on what Bitcoin does. I mean, where's Bitcoin going to be at December 31st? That's going to decide their fate completely. They've got 636,000 Bitcoin right now. It's insanity. There was one more while we were doing them. Go. All right, I can't find it. There was one more article about MicroStrategy bought some more Bitcoin. I got that here somewhere. They bought a bunch more Bitcoin last week, as they do virtually. Here we go. MicroStrategy buys another 1,955 Bitcoin for $217 million. And you'll see this takes them up to 638,460 Bitcoin. I mean, in second place is Marathon with 52,000 Bitcoin. Just to put things in perspective, I mean, the MicroStrategies, or strategy now, is on. They're playing their own game. I don't know how much room there is for too many more of these, and MicroStrategy's been struggling. So we'll see. We'll see where this goes, but I don't see them backing off. I mean, they're pretty deep into this. But let's go to the jobs, because this was the first thing. There were two giant things. One of them affected Bitcoin and the stock market, and then the stock market mainly recovered and ended up being just fine. The other one affected the Bitcoin miners. So let's go to this first. U.S. economy added 911,000 fewer jobs than previously reported in largest ever revision. So this gets revised monthly, as you guys remember. And then once a year, the March number, the 12 months ended March, gets a revision. Now, last year, we had the all-time worst year ever, and we lost over 800,000 jobs versus what we thought. So that was the worst year in history until this year. This year, we beat that, 911,000 fewer jobs. But I want to put that in perspective, because you go, well, how much does that mean? There's hundreds of millions of people in America, and what does that mean? But if you look here, this is Investopedia. The economy just lost nearly 1 million jobs on paper. This sentence right here, the revision cancels out about half of the job growth during that period being the last year, from March 24 to March 25. So half the jobs we thought we were getting and growing, and as Jerome Powell was standing up there talking about what a wonderful job market we have and how the big risk is inflation. We were hemorrhaging jobs. You can't have these anymore, right? Trump fired the person that's in charge of all this, and it's for this reason. You can't get to the end of the year and be wrong by half.
He wasn't wrong
per se.
per se.
I can be wrong by half. Here, whatever you're paying that guy, I'll do the job for $100,000, and I guarantee you I'll be closer than this person is every year. And
it makes you.
And by the way, I'll guess. So I won't even look at a number. I'll just guess, and I'll be closer.
It makes you think that it's just, why would you expect the government to do it better? That's the fallacy in the United States, is that the government's going to do something better.
Yeah, that's almost never the answer.
Interesting. I said, do you think it's smart to end the Fed? And we got 67% saying no.
Do you think it's smart to end the Fed? The answer to that. Oh, so first let's revisit. Are we going to hold the gains on Bitcoin miners today? 87% say yes. Love to see that. And most people don't want anybody messing with the Fed.
I do.
Well, we're in it now, man. I don't know how to get out of it.
I'll tell you right now, the Fed, this is so funny that this many people don't know what the Fed does. You tell me who owns the Fed, first of all. And don't say the United States government, because that is not correct.
That is not correct.
That is not correct. And then when people say that, the Fed is still under British control. I don't care what anybody says. That is what I believe. And you need to get documentation to prove otherwise. It happened down here in Georgia on Jekyll Island. And it's those things are just unbelievable. So the Fed is an independent from the United States that has their own balance, and they have their own ability to create wealth and take it. The Rothschilds, amen. And that's what bothers me. M1, M2, I mean, here's the thing. No one even talks about this when Bernanke did it. Bernanke, how do you say it?
Ben Bernanke, yep.
He gave $9 trillion to the European markets, and no one today even knows anything about that transaction. No one.
By the same token, the federal government has gotten itself into so much trouble, and the banking industry in specific during the last crisis, that the Federal Reserve, if not for the Federal Reserve, and I'm not arguing for the Federal Reserve, but this is an absolute fact. If not for the Federal Reserve, the Bank of America, Citibank, every single top 10 bank, JP Morgan, all of them would have gone out of business on the same day. And I remember the day they were trading as penny stocks. And the Fed jumped in and said, we're opening the window. There's now an infinite amount of money. We don't care how much. And I don't even think they repaid that money, Tom. No, I'm sure. All they've done is kick that can forward. And matter of fact, there's a stress test that's supposed to happen the first week of October for the Fed, for banks. And it's ugly. That's what everybody's nervous about. JD's saying, why would anyone here want to keep the Fed? I thought this was a sound money crowd. What it is most people don't understand what the Fed really is. That's what it is. Most people do not understand that the Fed is the problem. The Fed is it's a part of the haves, and we are part of the have-nots. The example I gave is the only reason for the Fed to exist, because once every major bank in your country goes under, so does everything else. So that would have been it. 2008 was the end. if not for the Fed. Now, did the Fed cause the problem in the first place? Pretty much.
Yes.
So, yeah, it cuts both ways for sure.
Didn't China also save the U.S. banks? That's Barry's question.
Barry, not really. What saved the U.S. banks, the Federal Reserve. Here, first, it was. Who am I forgetting? The U.S. Treasury Secretary, and I can't believe I can't remember his name right now. He went to Congress and said, "I need a $700 billion check."
Oh, and before Bernanke?
And I need it today, or we're screwed. And they laughed at him. Not one person voted for that to go. So instead of giving $700 billion, which would have been the boost the economy needed, because really a run on the bank is psychological. So had the Treasury had $700 billion in their back pocket, none of that would have ever happened. But instead, 3 days later, the Federal Reserve had to open up the window and say, we're not going to give you $700 billion. We're going to give you infinity. So thank your congressman.
Before Bernanke?
That was, well, Ben Bernanke was over at the Federal Reserve. I can't believe somebody tell me his name. You guys will remember.
No, I'm looking it up right now for you.
He was head of the Treasury. He went to Congress and said, listen, if we don't do this now, we're screwed. No, Alan Greenspan was before Bernanke. Those guys are all were at the Fed.
No, you're talking at you're talking what's his name? Oh, the funny looking guy with the glasses. His name.
I don't know how I'm not remembering his name right now, but anyway,
but I thought he wasn't at the Fed. I thought he was at the U.S. Treasury Department.
The head of the U.S. Treasury Department. That's who went to Congress and said, "I need $700 billion, and I need it today."
Rumsfeld.
Now that's a stick up. I get it, but as
was it Rumsfeld?
It wasn't. It was the guy. It was the guy after. I'll try to find it while we're looking. I can't believe I can't remember his name.
Well, and the guy that replaced him, Tom, that just walked out just the other day. When did you hear what happened?
I don't think so.
Oh my God, he's like they didn't categorize anything properly in any of the payments at the U.S. Treasury Department. And they never, ever, ever declined a request for money from Congress. So all the budgets we did, it doesn't even matter. It was a slush fund.
Oh, I love it. Alexander Hamilton. I don't think that's who I was looking for.
That's a few years ago, Tom. Did you not hear about that when Doge went into there? And he said, "Don't worry, every IOU in there, it's good for you. Want to hang on to that one? That's for the Ferrari." I mean, it was like Dumb and Dumber was in charge of the U.S. the U.S. Treasury Department.
Well, between the Treasury Department, between the Federal Reserve, listen, we got more government going on over here, and all we do is print money and borrow money, and you're right, that kicked the can. The game would have been over in 2008. They kicked the can down the road, but they did not solve the problem in any way, shape, or form.
That is not done. I think what is happening now is the end of all that. That's why I always say Nasara Jasara. I think Nasara Jasara is the end of the beginning of this whole, formation of the Fed.
So I still haven't done my deep dive on that. So you
haven't
mentioned that numerous times. I gotta write it down. All I got is Hakuna Matata.
So it's what I didn't even know half of these people. There's a guy named Kimmett. There's a guy named Paulson. There's a guy named Snow.
Paulson.
Was it Paulson?
When was Paulson?
He was 2000
That's
July
that's too late.
2006.
No, it was Hank Paulson, but it was before him.
Oh, Githner, Tim Githner or whatever, or no?
I'll find it. And if anybody remembers it. I could have swore it was Hank Paulson, but
I can't believe.
give me just a second.
You're looking it up.
I'm going to give 30 seconds to this and then move on because it's not worth our time.
Does the Fed ever lose money? No one knows.
The Fed doesn't lose money. It can't lose money. It can make money.
Right? You're right.
There is no, the Federal Reserve has what's called an infinite balance sheet. So it can do whatever it wants, whenever it wants, with however much money it wants to.
And when we gave that, $9 trillion back, during Bush, no one knows if that was ever repaid. And that could be the real cause of inflation today, by the way. That's what gets me.
There's two or three things that are the cause of inflation today that nobody talks about, that, we can't say on the public streams.
About giving money out and giving.
I mean, I can tell you, if you want to talk about the major events that have created the U.S. debt, 9/11.
Well,
that was it was a tragedy, and it destroyed the economy. Then on top of that, we had our subprime mortgage situation, which, each one of these is multi-trillion-dollar events.
Yeah, but here's what,
and then what? We had COVID, which put them all to shame. It was 10x both of those, and we're not done losing money from COVID. That was the you guys are going to call me a conspiracy theorist, but that was the single biggest intentional change to the world order in the history of the world. Now we got to do a poll. Who thinks I'm nuts?
But Tom, this is why I'm in Bitcoin, by the way, just so everybody knows. The whole reason I'm in Bitcoin and XRP is because I think this merry-go-round ends soon. I think October 1st is going to be just such a liberation day.
Okay, here we go. You guys get your chance to weigh in on my. I never say the quiet stuff out loud, but we're on our members only stream.
You're nowhere near conspiracy level, Tom.
Well, we're gonna see who thinks Tom is conspiracy theorist and that I'm talking nonsense. Pretty close right now. A lot of people think I'm talking nonsense.
Well, you mean about COVID?
Those three events. COVID. Listen, we shut I don't know what you guys did in the rest of the world, but we shut the economy down for years. There's nothing, it dwarfs anything that's ever happened to our economy. We have the biggest economy in the world. You can like that or hate it, and you can hate America and all that stuff, but it's by far the biggest economy in the world, and we shut it down. We shut it down. There were millions of elderly people who died isolated alone because they weren't even allowed to see their family members. I mean, this was, we just...
My dad died and I didn't get to see him.
Right. There you go. We gave up, everyone in this country just rolled over and gave up all of our rights like in one day without a shot fired. It was like, here you go. And it went on. It was 2 weeks. It was going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve. That was the promise we were given. That 2 weeks turned into 2 years in which we raised the budget by 70%. It's the largest period of raising the U.S. budget in the history of the United States. And at the same time, we then, not only did we raise the budget, it increased the deficit, and then we took our interest from 0 to 5%. So that instead of paying $50 billion a year in interest, we pay $1 trillion a year in interest.
How about this, Tom? I was listening to a cardiologist talk. He said in the last year and a half, he's seen more, what was it called? More heart congested failure than he has for his first 20 years. He's been in for 30 years.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, I'm the conspiracy guy. Hey, the things I'm conspiracy about.
It was Hank Paulson. Sorry to jump in. It was Hank Paulson.
By the way, people couldn't find the stream today. I just tried to find it and they couldn't find it.
I did it right. I did it right today.
I'm just telling you, that's what they wrote on the thing.
Should I send a link? What the heck? I did it right. I was very careful today.
What? CleanSpark up 30% after hours?
No.
But that would be amazing.
Well,
that would be...
I would be thrilled, but I'm having trouble believing it. Let me see if I can send a link. I don't understand. And then I sent another. Get a shareable link. And now I can see it's the right one, because when I do the wrong one, it shows me that I did the wrong
it's just
one.
not showing up. It's not up 30% after. You're crazy.
You crazy.
It's up 0.72%. But it is looking nice. I'm going to analyze it with AI. %35% growth for the rest of the next year. Fitzgerald puts a $26 price target on it. Chardin Capital puts a $20 price target on it.
This is on CleanSpark?
Yeah. HC Wentworth puts a $27.
See, and this is on a $9 stock.
Yeah.
If I found a bag of money, I'd go buy a CleanSpark with it. That's all I can tell you.
Would you really?
This number is so stupid, and when it goes, it's going to go, and everyone's going to be like, oh, obviously, but right now, oh, CleanSpark's garbage. And Robert Anderson saying, not sure what CleanSpark can do at this point. I can tell you what they can do, and part of it is out of their hands. It's just when big money decides that they're going to rotate in and they're going to double or triple or quadruple the stock. But I'm going to show you their press release today and why I think they just, it's like they're being obstinate about it. They put out a press release. This was actually yesterday. CleanSpark strengthens leadership team with strategic appointments to drive innovation and power the next phase of growth. They changed who their president is. These are all internal guys. The chief development officer, the chief operating officer, Harry Suddick, formerly the senior vice president, is now the chief business officer. And they say, America's Bitcoin miner today announced a strategic realignment of its leadership team with several key internal appointments and transitions to accelerate innovation, drive diversified growth, and strengthen the company's long-term strategic trajectory. Well, what's accelerate innovation and diversify growth? That's high performance computing and AI, and they know it, and we know it, and everybody knows it. They won't say it out loud. I'm not kidding you. If this had said that, if the end of this said, CleanSpark strengthened leadership team with strategic appointments to drive innovation and power the next phase of growth in our high performance computing and AI business sector. If they had added those words to the end of this line, they'd have been up 15% today instead of 5%. They will eventually have to admit what's going on. I don't know. They're very stubbornly clinging to just not saying the words out loud, but we all see it. We all get it. That's what's happening. And I do think, George, that's what it was about. I mean,
What?
that's why Matt stepped in as CEO.
Why?
I think because he wants AI to be a part of the picture instead of this pure play Bitcoin miner. And
that was a big mistake. But who knew? You know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I didn't criticize them when they went in that direction. The only criticism I have is, I thought that was a strength, separating themselves a year and a half ago. But
I'm telling you that Trump's gonna come out and he's gonna get 10% ownership of CleanSpark. He's gonna get 10% ownership of Marathon, and he's gonna get 10% ownership of ABTC. Okay, and the prices are gonna go crazy.
Right, and he's already made it crystal clear he's all in on Bitcoin. And I can tell you, the Democrats put out a thing today. They're mad that Trump's in Bitcoin. It's like, well, you didn't, he, quote, didn't get reelected. And so so what's he going to do? He's not the president for 4 years. So he goes home and starts a bunch of new businesses. That's what he's done his whole life. And then, he gets elected president again. He can't not undo what he did. And by the way, he screamed it at the top of his lungs for the last 2 years, and it was a focal point of his campaign. So there was no bait and switch. There was no mystery, sneaky. I'll show you. The Democrats put out here. Dems respond to GOP's crypto market structure bill with framework of priorities. So they put out this memo. They are trying to slow this down. The Republicans are trying to speed up, and I don't care what anybody's politics are. I'm just telling you what's happening, right? Maybe you're a Democrat and you think they're right on everything else in the world. That's totally fine. But the fact is, they want to slow crypto down, and the Republicans want to speed it up. That's not there's nobody that disputes that fact. So here's their letter, a framework for market structure legislation. So they issued this letter with 7 points: closing the gap in the spot market for non-security digital assets. Point number 2, clarifying the legal status of digital assets and regulator jurisdiction. Now, if we haven't clarified that by now, right, these are not securities. That's been made crystal clear by the securities SEC losing every single case that they did. Number 3, incorporating digital asset issuers into the regulatory framework. Number 4, incorporating digital asset platforms into the regulatory framework. Number 5, preventing illicit finance. Like, this is a list, this is a kind of a wish list of intangible things that if you want policy, you got to state your policy. I want X. You can't just say, I'm against illicit financial activity. Well, no kidding. So is everybody else. Number 6, preventing corruption and abuse. President Trump has turned to digital asset projects to enrich himself and his family, abusing his office for corruption with no modern precedent. His actions have also undermined confidence in the broader digital asset industry. So this is not a legitimate request for legislation. This is Trump bad. I mean, they don't even hide it. They just go right ahead and say it right in the middle of here. Abuse and corruption. So that's all I'm saying. I mean, it's not, if you dig deep, it's all right here. And you can decide whatever you want to decide about it, but you can't, people don't get their own, everybody was like, well, that's not my truth. That's not, it's like, no, it's just the truth. What it means, right? What that means, the ramifications of that truth or fact, you can debate, but you can't debate the fact itself. And that's what we're a society full of doing right now. And I'm on my high horse right now, but I'm guessing a lot of you agree with me that we're no longer, this my truth, my facts. That's not how the world works. That's not how anything works. And until we stop doing that, we're preventing ourselves from moving in the right direction. We can't have honest conversations.
Do you remember the shooter in Massachusetts that just happened recently?
Yes.
His girlfriend was a furry.
Ay.
That's their truth. And he had a text message sent to her telling her he was going to do this. And she's in jail right now. She's going to go away for a long time.
Yeah, that is horrendous and awful.
So, yeah, but she's claiming that she was a furry and she didn't understand the message. Because cats can't read.
Oh, boy.
I am that serious. Yeah.
We got to start accepting reality or it's going to run us over.
Sorry, side note. Did you see that POS that killed that girl from Ukraine in Charlotte, North Carolina?
Oh, no, I did not.
Oh, my God. It just finally broke. This happened 2 weeks ago, Tom. This poor little, beautiful little girl, 23, sits down on a bus in front of a monster that was let out of jail 14 times, but he was on, cashless bond again. Literally, this is all that happened. She sat down, he took a knife out and knifed her in her throat and killed her. She never spoke to him. She never looked at him, nothing.
Yeah, it's madness.
It was, it's like Trump. It was disgusting. If you guys don't watch the video, you don't need to. It's just so sad that there's somebody out there. But this was his whole point. He shouldn't have been out. He was on a cashless bond 14 times. I mean, he shouldn't have been out. And I think that's the thing. Like, here in Georgia, in Athens, Georgia, where I live just outside of, that's the other problem. We had that poor girl that got raped and killed and he shouldn't have been out. He was down here from New York City because of the sanctuary cities. And that's the problem with Democrats that they can't explain. There's no way that guy was out because just because of the rules that New York has.
Well, there's 3 or 4 states, and it's a state by state thing. And there's 3 or 4 states that have unbelievably lenient rules. And, a lot of other people suffer as a result
But
of
that's
that.
not, those aren't the laws, Tom, that it's just insane.
I agree.
Right. We need to invest in more mental health. And I agree. And less than AI. I am scared to death with these high performance centers
Robert
going.
Anderson, sorry to interrupt, and I know you just said what he said, but that is 100% right on.
Yep.
If we were doing that, if we were taking care of the mentally ill instead of confirming them, we'd be in a better place right now. The mentally ill deserve to be helped and taken care of. And we're doing the opposite. Now, there's not a great track record going in either direction. You don't want people sticking everyone in an insane asylum. We know the right way to do this. We're just not doing it. And nothing is a perfect system. I understand. That's a fair statement, and that's true. You were saying, George, you're scared of the AI.
I'm scared of AI for a few different reasons, by the way. One, I think we need to curb it right now. And 2, I think we need to put new zoning in because there's a lot, just with the Bitcoin miners, they make a lot of noise and they make a lot of vibration. And I'm going to tell you something, vibrations make people go nuts.
Oh, you're talking physically. These data centers.
Yes.
Are right. Yeah, no doubt.
They need to, and I hate to say it, but they need to put a moratorium on them right now before we need them. If they won't, because there's just too much money being thrown around. But the stories I'm hearing, like with Sonderville and in Georgia, and the problem that CleanSpark's having. I don't know about you, but I don't know things that vibrate. It's frequencies, and there's certain frequencies. Like I don't know if you know this, but blue light has a certain frequency. Anytime you guys look at blue light, you should wear glasses because it has a certain range of a frequency that is actually a testosterone blocker, which is crazy.
And that's when we look at our computers, isn't
it? Yeah. I have screens on mine.
You got to get the blue blockers, if anybody remembers those. One of the first infomercials from the 80s or 90s. They were sunglasses. Anyway, we digress. Sorry. I blame myself. I'm glad to see that 76% of the people don't think I'm talking nonsense. 24% of the people do think I'm talking nonsense. Fair enough. It's hard to be on here for years and years and years, and everybody on YouTube has to walk this super ultra fine line of trying to make sure you never say anything to hurt anybody's feelings. And, when it means not telling the truth or lying, it's too much. We need to get back to free speech and different opinions and different thoughts. And 24% of people get to say, well, I think what you're saying is nonsense. Good. That's healthy debate. That's what we need to get back to, in my opinion. So we'll end that poll and get back on point here because a lot went on here today. So if we go here, and this surprised me. Refresh this. This is the CME Fed Watch tool. With that train wreck of an adjustment in jobs, which basically means all the good jobs reports that we had all year that we thought were good, they were all bad. And that did not move the needle at all on what people expect the Fed to do. It's still at 93%, 25 basis point rate cut in September. The 50 basis point rate cut has actually gone down from 10.6% to 6.2% from yesterday to today. Now, it was 0% for the many months before that, but it doesn't make any sense. But you will see by the end of the year, right? This is 1 cut, 2 cuts, 3 cuts. So we're pricing in 3 cuts at this point with a tiny percentage looking at 4. But I think it's going to keep moving over in this direction. I wouldn't be surprised if they have to do 4 cuts. And this is my problem, that they don't do them when they should do them. They do them when they have to do them. They do them when it's too late. So, and the market has no confidence they're going to do anything more than a 25 basis point. That's built in. That's what's going to happen, or we're going to have a problem. So I think you can pretty much take that to the bank. But let's see what you guys think. So those are the 3 scenarios. I think there's only one realistic scenario, but don't let me influence you. What do you think is going to happen? Are we going to get no rate cut? A 25, I don't know why I said a 24, that was a typo. A 25 basis point rate cut or a 50 basis point rate cut? That poll is up. You can vote now. We have 1 vote. I will tell you, I think we're going to get 25. And again, I said 24 here. That should be 25. That's a typo. I think we're going to get a 24 basis or 25% rate cut. I think if we don't, the market is going to throw a tantrum that we haven't seen in many years. And, you know, it'll be full blown bear market territory. So I think the Fed understands at this point that that's exactly where they stand and they know what they have to do. They can use some words after, you know, to scare everybody, but they got to give them the 25 basis points. And David said, I'm happy I bought a ton of Bitfarms at 77 cents. Well, you should be happy because you're up 100%. Get me back on my Bitfarms. We looked at this at the beginning. Bitfarms had a gigantic breakout today. They were up 24% today, and they broke through, you know, the only line of resistance that's in the neighborhood. The next one's $1.82, and I think they're going to run straight to that. So from, not from the very bottom, but from the bottom a month and a half ago, until the close today, that's up almost 130%. So I had considered, you know, because the Bitfarm story did change, and you got to look at the facts. So we talked about this, you know, a lot, as you guys remember. You got to look at the facts and say, you know, admit the facts have changed. This isn't the company. This is not the company that it was when I bought most of the shares of my stock. It's a different company now. The question is it a company worth holding on to, or, you know, are they too far gone and it's time to cut your losses and move on? Well, I felt they were wildly oversold. They were trading at significantly less than book value, which is just unheard of. That's pricing them to go out of business, and they have a very strong balance sheet. So whether I think they're half the company they should be, which is what I think, right? They could be twice the company they are today had things fallen their way, but they didn't. But they're still, crazy undervalued. So while this is not my highest conviction Bitcoin miner by any stretch of the imagination, the stock to me is still stupidly undervalued. Now, a 24% move up today helped an awful lot. And around $2, I think you got to start scratching your head. But, in the 70-cent area, it was silly. In the dollar area, it was silly. It consolidated here plus or minus $1.20 for a long time. And now it's broken out. It's at $1.59 was the close today. So I think that's a breakout. There's more to come. You'll see. If you look at the daily MACD, today was a bullish crossover. Now, we're pretty high on the RSI, but when you're one day into a bullish crossover, there's plenty of room to run from here. So we'll see what happens. Nothing's guaranteed. You know how these green days go. Tomorrow we could be staring at a red day that looks, just as red as today is green. I hope not, and I don't think that's what's coming. And let's talk about the news that really kicked all this off, because this is why the Bitcoin miners went bananas today. Nebius, is that correct? Microsoft $17.4 billion deal lifts AI mining stocks. This was early in the morning, so in pre-market. Well, it just got better from there. Nebula surged 47%. Cipher mining and Iron both advanced on speculation. So as the day went on, it became more than Cipher and Iron were running out ahead of everybody. But as the day went on, it just turned into basically everybody. So Nebulous will supply Microsoft with GPU infrastructure over 5 years in a deal worth $17.4 billion and with a potential expansion to $19.4 billion. So this is a multi-billion-dollar per year contract. AI mining stocks Cipher and Iron rose 9%, and then you'll see by the end of the day, everything picked up momentum, and they all went, right? We'll just go through quickly. Bitfarms, 24%, Cipher, 19%, Iron, 15%, Hut, 15%, Hive, 15%, American Bitcoin, 11.6%, BitDeer 9%, Riot 13%. I mean, this was contagious. Pretty much everybody got it. Got the bump on this today. Even the ones, Bitcoin was down today. So looking at Marathon and CleanSpark, you might be disappointed in a 5% return today, but Bitcoin was down and they were still way up. So this was across the board a giant nice win for the Bitcoin miners. And this is not the last story coming on high performance computing, right? This is the tip of the iceberg. We know how big they've said the total addressable market is on this, and it's many, many multiples of this $117 billion deal. So, if the Bitcoin miners can get their share, we could be in for a different cycle this time around. And I think Bitcoin's acting differently this time around. And I think the Bitcoin miners, many of them have diversified and put themselves in a position. The gross margin on this stuff is through the roof. So they don't have to do as much of this as they do Bitcoin mining. I mean, the gross margin on Bitcoin mining is still really good for most of these companies, but it's nothing like what the high performance computing gross margin is. So they don't need, billions and billions of dollars in contract. And we're starting to see deal flow. which is crucial. So that's why we got today really one of the best days. Robert saying the poll disappeared. This is super close. I'm still seeing it. I don't know. I'll end it if some people aren't seeing it, but 25 basis points, 56%, 50 basis points, 44%. No rate cut, 0. So that's a lot closer than I would have expected. I mean, the market's pricing in a 90-something% chance of a 25 basis point rate cut. I feel like that is highly probable. If we're going to get a surprise, it's not. I will agree with this. If we're going to get a surprise, it's not that it's going to be a 0 rate cut, because that will push us off the end of a cliff. If we get any surprise, it'll be that they jumped ahead and tried to catch up a little and did 50 basis points instead. I think the chances of that are slim, but at least there's some chance of that versus the other side, which is, that you're going to see hopefully we will not see it, but that would be catastrophic in my opinion to the markets. Okay, then we got new White House crypto advisor Patrick Witt calls market structure bill top priority. The executive director of the President's Council of Advisors on Digital Assets told CoinDesk it's, quote, pedal to the metal time on legislation and Bitcoin reserve. So I want to talk about that in specific. In his first interview in the new role, Witt said the top 3 priorities are the market structure bill in the Senate, the implementation of the new stablecoin law, which has already passed, and the U.S. Bitcoin stockpile. So there it is. George and I have been talking about the U.S. buying Bitcoin and putting it into reserve sometime before the end of 2025. And I think that's going to be a monster catalyst for the next leg up for Bitcoin. And you can see he's naming 3 things. This is on his list of 3 things that they want to happen now. So let's see what you guys think. Will the USA buy Bitcoin for the reserve in 2025? So it's September 9th. There's not a whole lot of time left. Both myself and George think that the United States will make their first purchase of Bitcoin prior to the end of the year. George thinks it'll even happen a lot sooner than that. I'll let him talk for himself when he pops back in. So, I think this is important news, and it sits in the background. And, it wasn't a catalyst today. This Bitcoin was down on the day today for other reasons. But this sits out there. And, pedal to the metal means they're not fooling around. They want to implement this stuff. And yes, it's unfortunately, as everything has turned into, it's a partisan issue. On one side, you've got a party that wants to go pedal to the metal on cryptocurrency. On the other one, you've got a party that's saying Trump's abusive and corruption, is bad and crypto's bad. So, to oversimplify things, we need regulation. I'm not even arguing that. I don't like regulation. I never even like to say we need regulation, but the Genius Act was good, healthy regulation for stable coins. It allowed clarity. One of the things regulations does is it allows clarity to the market, because for as long as there's no legislation, the market sits back and waits and it goes, I don't know what's going to happen. So I'm just not going to do anything. until they let us know what's going to happen. So for the longer nothing happens, the longer you're just keeping. I mean, the ultimate example of this is we haven't built a new oil refinery in the United States for like 50 years. Why? Because they just don't know what the EPA is going to do and what legislation is going to come out that's going to, you got to invest a lot of money. They're not going to invest $10 billion into an oil refinery and then have, the administration change and go, well, that one's no good. It's not in compliance. Shut it down. So that's why, unfortunately, some amount of regulation is necessary, if for no other reason than to create some clarity into what the rules are, so that people will start. You're not going to play a game you don't know the rules to. So they got to at least start to tell us the rules. They did so with the Genius Act for stable coins. So that was a big step in the right direction. So hopefully there's more to come. Let's take a look at what the Bitcoin miners did here this week, last week, this month. All right, let's go to the updated charts. And then we'll also take a look at everybody's August Bitcoin mining results, some of which I kind of extrapolated, but there should be close enough. Okay, this is Monday and Tuesday. So we all know today was off the charts. So you can see it here graphically. Bitcoin this says up 0%. It was actually, I think, down. It rounded up to 0. It was down a little bit, rounds to 0. CleanSpark and Marathon are the laggers, up 5%. Bitfarms, 23%. Cypher, 23%. Iron, 15%. And remember, Iron was already a million miles ahead of everybody else, and they're up another 15%. Hut, 15%. Riot, 14%. TerraWolf, 13%. Hive, 12%. BitDeer, 12%. I mean, this was a spectacular 2 days for the Bitcoin miners. And if you remember, for the first time in a long, long time, last week we had a disappointing week. Bitcoin was up 3%, but if you look, the Bitcoin miners were down between 1% and 5% last week, with 2 outliers. Here this week, the Bitcoin miners are up between 5 and 23%, mostly between 12 and 23%, while Bitcoin is down 0.5%, and this looks like 0. So, already in 2 days, we more than made up for all of last week. And so if we look at the month of September, this is what September looks like. So there's Bitcoin up 3% in the month of September. Nobody's doing terribly. You got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 that are kind of lingering around. And then you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 that are off to the races, right? TerraWolf's up triple what Bitcoin's up. That's what we expect. Hut, same thing. Riot's almost up quadruple. Iron up 14% in September. Bitfarms up 19% in September. Cypher up 21% in September. So all of a sudden, after the first week of September being ugly, and this is the switcheroo, this is the exact switcheroo I talked about on last Tuesday's live stream and Friday's live stream. I felt like September was going to be a good month, and the hype and the narrative that September's a disaster, everybody knows it, we know what's coming. They played into that. They tanked everything for 1 week, and now it's off to the races. And I think it's going to keep going that way, but we shall see. So that's the week to date. That's the September month to date. If you remember August, I don't know why these changed around. It should not have changed, but I'm going to double check those numbers because those don't look right to me. But let's go year to date. So this is from the beginning of the year until now. And we got to change one more. We now have, we got to change 2 more, sorry. Oh, I did this already, but it didn't stick. Sometimes that happens. There we go. Okay, so year to date through, this is not through Friday, this is through today. You got Bitcoin up 19% year to date. So that's, you know, we're up, that's positive, but we're coming off of back-to-back years being up over 100% in 2023 and being up over 100% in 2024. So 2025, Bitcoin's not keeping up with its previous pace. However, like I said, Iron was already lapping the field, and they were up another 15% this week. They're up 207% this year. And from the bottom, they're up like 500% from their low on the year this year. We'll take a look at that. Cypher is now up almost 100% on the year. TeraWulf is up 82% on the year. Riot, right? They're one of the big companies. They don't, you know, people have kind of trashed Riot for a long time. They're 2.5xing Bitcoin's performance. They're up 49%. Hut's up 43%. And then you'll see Bitfarms, CleanSpark, Hive, and Core Scientific have all gone green. We only have Marathon down 5% year to date and BitDeer down 36%. And again, if you guys remember, I'm going to go back in time. This was April 4th. And it looked like 2025 was going to be an absolute nightmare. You've got everything down 40, 50, 60%. And it was during this time, it was on April 8th, 4 days later, that I called the bottom and I said, I think every single one or almost every single one of these will be green by the end of the year, and many of them will outperform Bitcoin. Well, we're basically, if I go back to year to date, we're basically there. Almost every single one of these is green, and 5 of them are now pretty dramatically outperforming Bitcoin year to date. Particularly Iron up 207%, Cypher up 99%, TeraWulf up 82%. TeraWulf had that gigantic, they got a big contract, so they got a high performance computing contract. So all that jump was right at once. Cypher and Iron have just been pumping. They just keep, these two are the momentum plays right now. You know, I don't know when it ends, but they are the clear momentum plays at the moment. But there's nothing wrong with, seeing Riot up almost 50% this year. So I think this year is looking really good. George.
How could it not be looking good?
Huh?
How could it not be looking good?
Yeah, I mean, it's looking good. I have optimism going forward.
My only thing is, it's like I said, the beginning with that stress test in October, that could cause a little bit of a flex.
Well,
do you know what I'm talking about?
Yes, I do. But October, November, December, the fourth quarter has been very good to us for Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Now, I hate to use that line of reasoning when I just debunked it in the last stream saying, September is historically a bad month, and I'm not putting any weight in that. But the fourth quarter has been very good, and timing wise, it sets up. But you're right. You never know what happens.
Well, I'm not. No. I'm not worried about Bitcoin. I'm worried about the stock market.
Oh, the stock market.
I'm not. I'm actually thinking the exact opposite. I'm thinking Bitcoin's going to go crazy. I'm just worried about, where our Bitcoin miner stocks hold if the stock market takes a nosedive.
Yeah, and that's the big crapshoot for sure. We see these things run and then tank and then run and then tank.
Yeah.
Now, the narrative is changing, though, because a lot of these companies, especially these over here, these are all, Iron is heavily into high performance computing. So is Cypher. So is TeraWulf. So is Riot. And Hut isn't even a Bitcoin miner anymore. They're all high performance computing energy play. Bitfarms has made the switch. CleanSpark, we've seen talk, they're starting to hint about it. Hive, they've already made the switch. Core Scientific made the switch a long time ago. They're really just letting their existing fleet dwindle out of existence, and then they'll no longer mine Bitcoin. So, which reminds me, let's go take a look at the results for August, because we pretty much have all the results, one of which I had to guesstimate. So I'll show you which one that is. So Marathon's back on top. They fell into second place for 1 month. Iron beat them, but Marathon at 705, a 0% change month over month. Iron 668, down 8% on the month. I'm not reading too much into that. That's still second place overall. It's still excellent performance. You'll see they're at 50 exahash. So they're staying steady at 50. They're going to be there the rest of the year. They already told us that, so you can mark that down. CleanSpark 657, they were down 2%. So they closed the gap. They were in a virtual tie with Iron, and they have the same amount of exahash, 50 exahash. Now, CleanSpark did talk about getting to 60 exahash by the end of the year, so we'll see if this grows. By the way, Marathon's already at 60, and they're talking about getting to 75. Riot, 477, down 1%, but remember, they got those $15 million in energy credits, so that's a big deal. Now, the bottom of the list is trying to catch the top of the list. You've got the bottom three. Cypher, 241 versus 214. That's an increase of 13%. They added 2.6 exahash, so you can see they're gearing up. Hive, 247 versus 203. Hive jumped up to 6th place. They're now at 18.1 exahash. They added 3.1 exahash. They've told us they're going to get to 25. And Bitdeer, they did not put out their monthly operation, so I don't know what their exahash is, but if I use the data they gave and extrapolate out the days that they didn't show, and I think I went conservative and said, they mined on the average 10 coins a day on the days that we didn't see, then that would give them around 365. So this is not the right number, but my guess is it's plus or minus 7 Bitcoin of the number that they're going to give us when they announce. So that puts them solidly ahead and up almost 30% month over month. And the previous month, they were up 39% month over month. So you can see these bottom three are making gigantic leaps to try to keep pace with these leaders that were running away with things. And that's why I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 solid Bitcoin mining companies. ABTC, American Bitcoin, they just went public. We haven't gotten a monthly operation report. They did give us an update and say that they went from 10 exahash in July to 24 exahash. So they added 14 exahash. So they should start to produce numbers very similar to Cypher and Hive. And we'll see where Bitdeer is at. They got to tell us how they mined this much more Bitcoin. And then Riot's at 36, and they only plan on getting to 38 by the end of the year. They've leaned a lot more heavily into the high-performance computing end of this. They do still have long-term plans to grow their Bitcoin mining substantially. But they took this year, they pretty much took the year off. They got to where they were going, and they've just had some, they had 0.9 exahash, so they're crawling along. Last month they added 0. The month before that they added 0.1 exahash. So you can see it's slow and steady from Riot, but this is during those summer months when they get those, 13 million in July of energy credits, 15 million in August of energy credits. So, that equates to almost another 100 Bitcoin, really, if you think about it. So then we've got Kang. Let me go to their CanGo. Here's my problem with CanGo. So they are also at 50 exahash, and we will look at how many Bitcoin they mine. So we have 3 companies, CleanSpark, Iron, and Cango, that all raced to 50 exahash. But I'm going to tell you why I feel like this is a different company and it needs to be judged differently. And from a market cap standpoint, it's being judged dramatically differently. You're going to see they're already saying by the end of 2025, they're going to be at 75 exahash. That's marathon territory. So they're going to be mining a massive amount of Bitcoin. If we go back to that chart, I put them under the line, but you'll see they mined 664 Bitcoin in August. That's up 2% from the 650 that they mined in July. So they're consistently mining, with these top Bitcoin miners, and they're telling us they intend to get a lot bigger. And then in 2026, they intend to get a lot bigger than that. So, if you just do the eyeball test, they're looking at getting somewhere near 100 exahash in 2026. The problem is, if I can find the slide, third-party hosting approach to operational efficiency. We've heard this story before. Capital light. Shift infrastructure and operation burden to hosting providers. Focus capital on mining rigs. Well, this is what Marathon did several years ago. And they learned that by doing so, the cost per coin went up dramatically. So they have subsequently shifted gears and spent billions vertically integrating themselves to get away from this capital light structure. Why? Because it just costs too much. And if you look, I have their financial statements open, which are in renminbi, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, that's Chinese currency. Now, one of the things they did say is this is their last financial statement that they're going to represent in Chinese currency. They will now be doing their financial statements in US dollars. So that's coming. And you can see they did them both here. But if you look, and I'll use the US dollar column. So for the 3 months ended June 30th, 139 million of revenue, 116.8 cost of revenue excluding depreciation. So this is just energy and hosting cost. That means they only had a 15% gross profit margin. That is less than half the next worst company out of all the Bitcoin miners. And it's really, on the average, 1/3 or 1/4 of the gross profit that the other Bitcoin miners are making. So there's miners mining half the Bitcoin, making more gross profit. So that is one of the reasons this company, I don't think it's comparing apples to apples. Yeah, their top revenue is really high, but it's at the expense of this asset light business model that, we all went down this road with Marathon. It failed. So the fact that they're going down this road doesn't make sense. It's not a winner, and it's proving out that way. Their cost per coin is astronomical versus the rest of the companies. So it just makes them different. So I'm hesitant to put them in. I don't mind following them and watching them and keeping them on our watch list and adding them to the performance list, but to put them here, and act like they're, second or third, 664 puts them in almost an absolute tie with Iron. And, if they keep ramping up, they're going to be ahead of Iron, and they may even pass Marathon in number of Bitcoin mined. But they're not making any money at it. It's costing them 2 or 3 or 4 times the amount per coin as it's costing their competition. Which is why, if I happen to have this open, I'll move to it. We have a tale of 2 companies that are at the opposite end of the spectrum. We have 2 new companies in the space. We got Cango. This is a $500 million market cap company. This is the lowest market cap out of all the Bitcoin miners. And they're set up over the next 1 or 2 months to become the largest Bitcoin miner. At the other end of the spectrum, actually, I have to go to a different page. Yahoo has not updated all of this. So if I go here, American Bitcoin Corp, which just went from 10 to 24 exahash. They have a couple of thousand Bitcoin in reserve. They are an $8 billion, according to Google, $8.2 billion, $8.3 billion market cap. I actually think they're a little higher than that, but 8.3 billion makes them the biggest by market cap. They're bigger than Marathon. Let me go to this chart's a little bit, it's a week old, but here's everybody's market cap a week ago. The Iron was $7.7 billion, and they were the biggest market cap in the industry. And American Bitcoin mining is bigger than that now. Marathon was $5.8 billion. I mean, American Bitcoin is substantially bigger by market cap than Marathon, Riot, Core, TerraWolf, Cypher, BitDeer, Hut, CleanSpark, Bitfarms, Hive. I mean, it's... And I don't think, I think you're going to see, I don't know how long it's going to take, but I think you're going to see them settle back down into the middle of the pack where they are as a company. Their market cap makes no sense, but, you know, we talked about this. I said they were at $7.40 last week, and I said, I'm not shorting them because, you know, history tells us these momentum plays just keep going in the wrong direction. So they went from $7.30 or 40 cents to $9.30. So, and they could keep running and running and running. But maybe that's good news for us because that means the market's got to at some point take a look and go, listen, if this Bitcoin mining company is worth 10 or 15 or 20 billion dollars, then these other Bitcoin mining companies that are 2 or 3 times their size, you know, we got to adjust them accordingly. So that's what I'm hoping comes out of all this. My guess is this will come back down to earth as the remainder of the companies continue to run. What'll be interesting to see, did Iron catch up to them?
We gotta run, buddy.
8.2. All right, George, thanks. We're wrapping it up anyway. Thank you. We'll see you on Friday.
See you Friday.
So as of the end of the day, Yahoo's saying Iron's at 8.2 and Google was saying American Bitcoin's at $8.3 billion. And there's no contest between these two companies. One of them is significantly larger than the other. So something has to give. We'll end this poll to one more. Will the U.S. buy Bitcoin for reserve in 2025? 60% say yes. By the end of the year, the U.S. will have bought into their Bitcoin reserve. 40% think no. So we're very, very split on that. We'll do one more poll. I'm just going to pick these 3. Okay, so will Marathon, Riot, and CleanSpark catch American Bitcoin in market cap by the end of this year? So remember, right now, I didn't put Iron in because they're already almost identical, but they are behind. But if we go back to that chart, you're going to see Marathon's at $5.8 billion. Riot's at $5 billion. That's not the one. I went all the way down to CleanSpark because really they're the third largest. They're at $2.6 billion, right? They mine significantly more Bitcoin than all of these companies that have bigger market caps in the middle. So there's no, to me, CleanSpark is just, it's just an explosion waiting to happen, in my opinion. You guys, you can drop in the comments what you think, but I don't. These seem to be taking turns. Each one's getting their run. I think CleanSpark's being suppressed. It hasn't had its turn yet, and I think when it does, it will be a violent move to the upside. That's my opinion. Let's see. Oh, there was one more thing I wanted to mention because there's still... All right, well, we'll get to this while we're at it. Bitcoin illiquid supply hits record 14.3 million as long-term holders continue to accumulate. So despite a 15% decline from August's all-time high, illiquid holdings continue to grow. So this is nothing but good. This changes the supply and demand equation. It puts pressure on the price of Bitcoin, and the illiquid supply is at an all-time high, and that can only be a good thing. So I just wanted to point that out. As Bitcoin seems to be consolidating a little bit, there's some fundamentals underneath that are doing well. Just want to find one more. Here we go. $7 trillion of cash pile could fuel the next rally in Bitcoin and altcoins. U.S. money market funds have reached a record high of over $7 trillion, potentially setting the stage for investments in riskier assets like cryptocurrencies. Analysts suggest that upcoming Federal Reserve rate cuts could prompt investors to shift funds from money market accounts into equities and cryptocurrencies. And here's the thing, we're going to get rate cuts for the next probably year and a half. So we are going to be in a constant easing cycle for the next year and a half. And that's why I think this cycle, that's one of many reasons why this cycle I think is going to be so very different than previous cycles. I don't think we're going to top out in October or November of 2025. That would follow our 4-year pattern. But it's all different this time, right? We didn't have $7 trillion invested in money markets when Bitcoin topped out at 69,000 in 2001. This is the most money that's ever been in money markets ever in history. $7.26 trillion. And as we continue, they can go do that because they're getting 4%, 4.5%. Some of them are getting better than that. But when that turns into 2%, money will evaporate out of these funds into higher risk assets. That's just the nature of how this works. So I think this bodes well for Bitcoin. I think it bodes well for cryptocurrencies. It seems like it bodes well for gold to continue, even though it's had one of the best runs in its history. I think gold could continue to run. So this is a number that I think we should keep our eye on because it's been very near all-time highs for a long time, and here now it breaks a new all-time high. This is basically your money sitting on the sidelines. So if you think that we're out of buying pressure, there's $7 trillion of just cash sitting on the sidelines waiting for an opportunity to come into the market. So, this is just another piece of the puzzle that I think is a positive piece for Bitcoin and the altcoins. So if we just take a look, we're at almost exactly $111,500. So we're hanging out a little bit down from yesterday, almost exactly where we were when we closed on Friday. So We're going to have to see what the rest of the week brings. But today is this one I'll take a screenshot of, because this is one of the best days of the year we've had for the Bitcoin miners. They went bananas today. Let's see if they can hold up the momentum. So congratulations, everybody. I hope your portfolios grew a lot today. Thank you guys so much for joining the members only live stream, and thanks for being members. And I hope you guys have a good rest of the week, and hope to see you guys on our everybody live stream on Friday. So have a great week. Thanks.